What do Geddy Lee, Glenn Hughes, and a wall of orange cabinets have in common? One of the most powerful, pure tube-driven bass amps in rock history, the orange AD200 Mark III bass amp. But does the Line 6 Mandarin 200 bass amp in the Helix give you that same rock tone without the need to carry the 58-pound head? I'm Twistie. If you've been rushing to get that powerful Geddy Lee sound, see what I did there? Geddy Lee, rushing. All right, then you've probably come across the orange AD200 Mark III bass amp and cabinets. In this video, I'm going to break down the orange amp, talk about some of the cabinets, and then look at how we can dial in a Geddy Lee type sound using the Line 6 version of that famous amp. Let's check it out. So here's the deal. Tube amps are amazing, but they're heavy, loud, fragile on the road. And although Geddy Lee has stated that he chose the orange amps over the Ampegs because of their stability when traveling, the orange AD200 is no exception. Beginners and seasoned players often struggle with capturing that warm, gritty tube sound in a digital rig like the Line 6 Helix without turning it into a fuzzy mess. Line 6 have included a model called the Mandarin Bass 200, but unless you dial it in right, you'll miss that Geddy Lee sound. So today I'm going to try and fix that by showing you how to get that massive tone without the weight. The orange AD200 Mark III was released in the early 2000s. It's a 200 watt all valve or all tube powered beast with a minimalist philosophy where there's only 5 knobs: gain, bass, mid, treble, and turning it up loud. That's it. No built-in compressors, no DI outputs, no coloring, just a raw tube bass amp with tons of gain. Part of the marketing from Orange for this bass amp is they say it's the shortest signal path from your bass to the speaker. And I think they mean it. Delivered using 4 6550 power tubes in a Class AB power amp with a preamp that's powered by 2 ECC83 and 1 ECC81 tube. There's 2 inputs, one for active basses and one for passive basses, which allows the gain circuitry to be optimized depending on whether you're using a passive bass or a hot pickup active bass. Being all about the tube, or the valve, depending which country you're from, it delivers a fat, creamy, low, punchy mids and just the right amount of tube grit as you dial it in. It's perfect for rock, doom, punk, prog rock, and especially anything with that low 1970s style growl. Geddy Lee from Rush famously used the AD200 to blend warmth and grind into his already complex tone. And he also used it for the reliability he'd get on the road. Glenn Hughes, Deep Purple, called it the sound he's been chasing for decades. And Tom Peterson of Cheap Trick is known to use it for his 12-string bass to make sure he gets all the tonal range out of that bass. To accompany the AD200, Orange also make a range of cabinets. They make a 4x10, a 1x15, and an 8x10. And we'll talk about those a bit more when we go through the Helix model. So let's have a look at HX Edit. We'll build up a Geddy Lee style tone and explain the controls. So having a look at HX Edit, I'm doing this model on my Helix LT, but this will be the same on a Floor or a HX Stomp or HX Rack. I've got a very simple preset running. I've got a compressor at the front, basically to tone my fingers down and make sure everything's level and not lumpy. We've got the Mandarin Bass 200, and then I've got a Ampeg 4x10 Pro cab. If we start having a look at the Mandarin bass first, like the real model, we've got a gain, bass, middle, treble, a master volume, and then a channel volume. So that's the preamp settings for the amp. Now on the real one, I said it's got a active or a passive input. We don't need to worry about that on the Helix because we can adjust that through our gain control across the preset. So if I set everything at 12 o'clock or noon, I like to have the master volume turned up. It allows to get that nice tube compression on the power stage, and then I'll adjust the volume of the preset through the channel volume. So if I set that gain quite low and adjust the channel volume, that's a nice sound. It's got a bit of that grit in it as I dig in. So I think I'd have this as one of those set and forget bass amps where you set everything at nude and then just get on and play and then just adjust the drive or the gain. So keeping that gain low, we get a nice thick, clean, warm, which is great for that sort of old school rock, some Motown. And when you push that gain up though, I really start to get some way over the top. Get some over the top distortion happening. Now the magic button on this particular amp is the mids. Keeping the bass and the treble fairly neutral at around 12 o'clock. Now depending on the room, you might want to drop that bass back slightly. You know, probably around 4.5. And just put a little bit of top in there. And if you then boost the mids, you'll get that cut through the mix and a bit of growl starts to come in. But the research I've done seems to be that most players like to have it around about the 12 o'clock. So again, I might match it just off that of the just off treble. So pretty well, everything's even. I've got a little bit bass rolled off to get rid of some boom, a bit of treble dialed in, and the mids are around about that halfway mark. And that's a nice clean sound. As I mentioned before, Orange produce 3 bass cabinet types. There's a 1x15, a 4x10, and then an 8x10, which is made up of 2 4x10s in a single enclosure. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, Line 6 haven't modeled any of those 3 cabinets. So I'm going to try using the Ampeg 4x10 Pro. For versatility in medium to large venues, Orange recommend a 4x10, gives you lots and lots of punch and volume. If you place a 1x15 under a 4x10, you get that Glenn Hughes orange bass rig, or classic orange bass rig configuration. And if you want some bit more doom or stoner type music, using the 1x15 by itself, or maybe a 2x12, will get you that thick, saturated low end. So let's have a look at trying to dial in Geddy Lee's tone. Now I'm using a BB434 Yamaha bass. It's got passive pickups on it. I've got the tone rolled off slightly. I've got the jazz pickup set at around about 60% and the P pickup set to around about 50-ish. So I've got a little bit more back end pickup coming through, and that's because I don't have a Rickenbacker like Geddy was using or a jazz bass. Okay, the jazz bass is on my list, but I haven't got one just yet. I've set the gain to around about 5.5. I've rolled the bass back a bit. I've pumped the middle up to, so that would be around about 2 o'clock on a real amp. And the treble I've set flat. I've pushed the master volume up and I've adjusted the channel volume. Just remember, the channel volume doesn't affect the tone, just the loudness of the preset. I've pretty well left the power stage functions, so sag, hum, ripple, etc. I've left them all flat. Haven't made any changes to those at all. If you want a little bit more compression out of that power stage, or make it sound like it's compressing a bit, then you can increase the sag. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry too much about the other settings. Feel free to though. So without the cabinet and the compressor on, it's going to give me this sort of sound. Great overdrive, raspy tone there. Now again with the cabinet, because I don't have an orange cabinet, I'm going to go with the Ampeg Pro 4x10. I could have gone with the Eden, the Garden 4x10, but the Garden is a little bit brighter in its output, and I want that bit more warmer tone to get that rush grind. So I've gone with the Ampeg. But have a look at the Garden when you do it and see what that comes up like. Please let me know if it's a better option. Now I'm going with a 421 dynamic. This is sort of a general purpose bass cabinet mic. If I wanted a bit of brighter sound, I'd probably go with the SM57 or the 57 dynamic. But in this case, I want that bit more broad range, a bit warmer tone. I like to have it on the cap edge. I find the cap edge gives me a bit of a balance between brightness from the cap and some of that cone broader sound. I've set the distance to about 4 inches. Now you can play around with that. I found at 2 inches it was still a little bit too dark, so I've pushed it back to about 4 inches. But again, your tone might be a little bit different to mine. So, but 4 inches seemed to work for me in this particular sound. I've got it on a flush, not at 45 degrees. As always, I'm cutting at 45 Hertz. The reason I do that is so that I can get out of the drummer's way in the mix. The kick drum will be in that 40 to 60 Hertz, and I'm trying to carve some space out for myself, so I do that. The cabinet also doesn't do much above 5 kilohertz, so I'm cutting at 5 kilohertz to get rid of all that basically wasted noise. I'm not wanting to capture basically white noise. So now I've got the cabinet turned on. Warm, punchy, overdriven, sounds great to me. So let me go and see how I can butcher Rush. Big call out to Bassist Breakdown. Their link is above for the video on how to play this song with transcriptions. It was really, really helpful, and I couldn't have done it without it. So thanks very much. Check that video out. Let's have a look at this one.
Lighting
I hope I didn't offend too many people with my Rush interpretation, but that song's awesome to play. And there's something about 3/4 time in a prog rock that's just awesome. If you're looking for an amp model and you're tired of the usual Gallien-Krugers and the Ampegs, then the orange amp is great. Dial back some of that drive to a nice clean tone, and there's lots of bottom end thump and mid push. And if you're looking for something that's a bit more growly, and then dial that grid in, and the world's your Blue Oyster Cult. If you're using the orange or you're migrating across from the orange to the Helix, let us know in the comments how close it sounds to your ears. And if there's other bass amps you want me to try and cover, leave the comments below. Otherwise, check this one out and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.